there has been more evidence than folks were acknowledging. But yeah, of course, I mean, you wouldn't need to do what we do. I would prefer not to have to do all this digging. It's very labor intensive, it takes a long time, and it costs a lot of money, but, so yeah.
And I think to your point too, I would agree that there are a lot of presence and evidence within communities and organizations, and Kathy Current will, if she has a question, will also say that yes, some people came out of the woodworks and had given us artifacts that they were ashamed of. So some of them told us we threw it in the river because we didn't want anyone to know that my family were, you know, racist or part of the Klan. So I do think the other part to your point is that there has to be an acknowledgement. There are many historical societies, and might I add, Eastville Community Historical Society is the only chartered historical society that happens to be run by African Americans in the state of New York. The other thing is that there is, yes, we're the only chartered by the New York State Board of Regents. And I would also add that we have to think about the history of African Americans and presence. There is one mandated museum in Hempstead, and that's a county mandate. But other than that, the other museum that is trying to get off the ground, which is more of a virtual museum, is in Southampton. So there is a lot of work to be done for African American presence and evidence here on the east end of Long Island.
Let me open it to questions, please, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Franklin Wilkes. I'm a resident of Sag Harbor for 27 years. I am in awe of the fact that this panel has been put together, and am greatly appreciative of that fact. However, I have a question as to whether or not there's been put together any collaborative effort to force the state of New York university system to put up funding to create an institute which would document and compile the information that reflects the work that you were doing. I personally had done genealogical research in North Carolina, and they have, as part of the university, something called the Carolina Room. And through that resource, I was able to find genealogical and cultural information going back to the 1850s about my family and the lives of African American people, the African American graveyards, and I was just wondering if there's anybody who's working to put together some sort of pressure on the university system of New York State to put together an institute that deals with the things that this panel is discussing today.
Can I have your phone number? I have your name, Franklin Wills from Sag Harbor. We would love for you to come and be a part of us and take on that committee. Since you have the experience.
Well, I would be more than happy to contribute time to it, but this is an undertaking, I believe, which would take the collaborative work of joining together all the institutes that focus on these issues and putting together a committee to go to the state of New York to force some sort of creation of an institute, sort of like the Carolina Room at the University of North Carolina.
Great idea.
Sure.
Yes, excuse me. My name is Lucius Ware, president of the Eastern Long Island NAACP. Just like to thank the panel for this great work that they've done this afternoon, but also to point out a few significant things that we should not overlook. I believe it was in the year 1929, in the municipal elections right here in Sag Harbor, there was a complete KKK slate that was presented for election here. Fortunately, they did not get in, but just to show you how close it is, and as there are still a number of sheets hanging in closets, probably at least, if not virtually hanging. In addition to that, there was talk about the cemeteries. In the town of East Hampton and in the surrounding areas, there are a number of private cemeteries throughout. And I would say that one of the things that might be most profitable is to ask for volunteers to volunteer that particular information. And the amount of research would not be so extensive because these are very small places throughout. And I think that there'd be enough volunteer information that would come that would save a whole lot of looking in the, quote, the cemeteries. So, and many of those may, and I'm sure some of them happen to be of people of color. And then, in addition to that, there are other things that could be done in terms of volunteer basis without going to that particular extent. And again, thank you so much. I have a few other observations, but there are other people that are
Can I make a
looking.
comment on
Thank you.
that? Can I just make one quick comment?